I'm at Carlisle for the latest edition of This Racing Life, and this is what's coming up. We catch up with the team at Carlisle Racecourse, including a chat with Molly Dingwall, who in March 2018 became one of the youngest racecourse managers in the country. Clerk of the Course Kirkland Tellwright gives me the lowdown on the fences and the famous Carlisle uphill finish. Plus we'll be travelling east to the heart of the beautiful Northumberland countryside to meet husband and wife team Rose and Tony Dobbin, who look to maintain the rich vein of form they now find themselves in following a virus-ravaged last season. In March 2018, Molly Dingwall was appointed Carlisle General Manager, becoming one of the youngest people to hold that position in the UK. I began by asking Molly what makes Carlisle such a popular racecourse amongst both professionals and racegoers alike.
I think it's that we've got such a great connect with our local community, so we try really hard to speak to local trainers, local racegoers, and we try and have a good balance between all of that. And I think as well the fact that we're dual purpose, we race on the flat and the jumps, we have a little bit of everything for everyone.
Now, when you were appointed March 2018, you were the youngest racecourse manager in the whole country. Tell us how it all started. What was your first involvement in racing?
I used to go to points when I was a young girl, and I used to sit on the top of our old Land Rover Defender, and I absolutely loved it, and I loved the speed, the exhilaration of jump racing, and I got a job up at Perth Racecourse, which was absolutely amazing, under Sam Moorshead, and I just fell in love with it, and that was it for me. I knew that my career had to be in racing.
And how have you found life here in nearly 2 years since you took over?
I love it. It's absolutely amazing. It's such an incredible place. You know, we're so lucky. It's such a beautiful course. You look one way over the lakes, the other way over the city of Carlisle and the borders, and the team here are just absolutely wonderful, and they've been so incredible from the past nearly 2 years.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing, and long may it continue.
And dual purpose as well, good action on the flat as well as over jumps?
Absolutely. We've had runners such as Cosmic Law, who won here on our opening flat meeting in 2018 and went on to win the Woodcut. Hello Youmzain won his on debut here, and then obviously has gone on to win the Sprint Cup at Haydock. So we've had some impressive winners on both the flat and the jumps. Obviously we had Mr Whittaker last year in the Colin Parker. Horses such as Dolos, Surname, Many Clouds has run here, Waiting Patiently. We've had some absolutely amazing horses, and it's a real credit to the amazing work that the grounds team do as well. And
not only do the horses come, we see the connections here, the owners come, and the big name trainers rock up as well.
Absolutely, it's great. The McNeils are coming today. We have loads of people that come here and support their runners, so it is really fantastic, and it gives the crowd something to cheer about when those horses come back in. There was a great reception for Lost in Translation last week when he won the Colin Parker. The parade ring was full of people clapping and whooping, so it was lovely to see.
And as far as theme days are concerned, I mean, all sorts of theme days on the flat and in over jumps. We've got the Remembrance Day race day today, for example.
Yes, so we've got the Remembrance Race Day today, and we're giving free admission to anyone in the armed forces, just as a little thank you from us. And I think it's important to give people another reason to come if they're not necessarily a racing fan in general. They want to come and see what it's about. Giving it a theme and giving it another dimension is wonderful, and if it brings more people into the sport, then that's just a big tick for us, and that's what we want.
And Molly, they love the racing here. I mean, there's always plenty of people around the paddock.
Absolutely. It's amazing to see so many people come and celebrate these horses, whether it be on the flat or the jumps. And I think people in the north come and they see these fantastic horses here, and they can go and follow them on to whether they go to Aintree, Cheltenham, whether it's Epsom on the flat, and that's what they love. So I'm really proud that we can provide that platform for people to see these horses in the north.
And we see plenty of races sponsored today. Any more news on the sponsorship front?
Yeah, we've got some great sponsorship for next year. Stablemate by Agma are going to sponsor the Carlisle Bell again, and they've signed up for the next 3 years. And then we've also got VL Aesthetics, who are a local company who are going to sponsor our Ladies' Day. So, and 2 weeks ago, we actually gave all the race names to local trainers as well, just to try and support our local trainers who run so many horses here. We thought we'd give a little back, and we named them after some local trainers, which was nice.
And just speaking of naming things, I mean, you mentioned at the Carlisle Bell, a historic race, but we've also, looking around, we've got a Monny's Bar, we've got a Red Rum place as well, after famous names that have been here.
Absolutely, it's lovely to be able to honour those incredible horses and be able to have a bar named after them, and they're always very popular, so yes, it's lovely.
And for anyone wanting to come to Carlisle, why would you recommend the course?
You get such a lovely northern welcome, and we are a very welcoming course. There are some fantastic horses and you can get really close to the action, so it's definitely a very special place.
Clerk of the course Kirkland Tellwright took me for a stroll on the famous Cumbrian track to find out a bit more about it. We're at the bottom of the hill, Kirkland. We're coming towards which would be the fourth last over fences, and it's a very inviting looking open ditch.
It's about the only fence that you run down towards. One of Carlisle's main characters is that most of the fences you meet on rising ground. This one does level off at the last second, but it's as well that it's as far out as this, I think, because you are just running down towards it a bit.
Yeah, looks very inviting, well built fence.
Yeah, and they're not over stiff, and as I say, you meet them on rising ground, so it is a popular place to run a novice chaser.
A lot of people love having their novice chasers introduced over fences here at Carlisle for obvious reasons.
Yeah. A couple of years ago we moved the Generals, which is the one in the dip on the far side.
Yeah.
That was undoubtedly at the bottom of the hill, and the records show that it took a disproportionate number of the fallers, so we moved it further on about 30 yards, and you just meet that on rising ground now, and it's just dealt with what was otherwise the bogey fence at Carlisle.
And another feature for me, quite a wide fence too.
Yeah. I think if the wider they are, the smaller they appear, because of course it affects the proportions.
Yeah.
I think the hedge as a wing is the same really. You know, if you can make jumping a fence look as though it's the easy thing to do, then it's helpful for a novice, and it's easier to jump the fence than go through the wing.
And it's lovely to see these hedge wings still in evidence at several venues, including Carlisle.
Yeah, it'd be quite a pantomime now to try and grow one from scratch, but you've got them at Chepstow, Sandown, Hexham. Lingfield, I think, might have them, and I'm sure somebody else will be insulting one or two others. Apologies to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And maintenance-wise?
Well, you cut them twice a year.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the hedge is best cut twice a year simply because it looks tidier. If you cut it once, it's much woodier. You get a thicker growth if you cut it twice.
And overall, ground-wise, down in this levelled out, sort of almost dip area, what does it get like?
Well, Carlisle is on clay. There's no getting away from that. So it's not what you choose if you're starting with a blank sheet, but the selling point of Carlisle, I think, is that it's one of the first courses to wet up in winter. So at the beginning of the season, Carlisle's likely to have easy ground before a lot of other courses, and we stage that sort of race that's attractive to a novice or a last season novice, you know, the Colin Parker, the intermediate race. So there are a number of races which, by design rather than by accident, are here to serve the needs of horses that we hope will go on through the season and fly the flag for us.
And I'm guessing, like every course, Kirkland, there's a fair bit of work being done on drainage and track management down through the years.
Drainage doesn't last forever, so you put a system in and it performs well, and then the performance begins to decline, so you can never take your foot off the gas. But you'd never be more than 2.5 metres away from a drain when you're standing on track at Carlisle. And then on top of the pipe drain network, you keep putting in sand slits just to provide connectivity from the surface for the water to get down into the drain.
And these lovely fences, I know you have a lot of dialogue with the jockeys. They're happy enough coming here and jumping these.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you don't see many horses full going uphill. It's much easier to jump a fence going uphill.
Well, we've come from the fourth last to the landing side of the third last, and Kirkland, this is where it really gets on the rise. It's really uphill from here.
It really is on the collar, and you can see horses that are going well at the bottom of the hill reduced to a slow canter by the top of the hill. Yeah. You can certainly go too soon when you go for home here.
Yeah, if you don't get home over the trip and you go too soon at Carlisle, you're just going to flounder.
Exactly.
Yeah. Underfoot conditions, a bit of sand dressing, but it goes deeper than that, doesn't it?
What you're seeing here is we've had heavy rain in the night, and the landings are naturally a bit pan because they give more stability. If it was as easy as parts of the course, this would just go to great sodden pudding through the winter. So this is a bit tighter here, and it looks a mess now, but that water will drain away. We were talking earlier about sand injection, and that, unfortunately, there's nothing to see at the moment, but it's basically a tractor-drawn implement which is putting in little triangles of sand about 8 inches deep and 2 inches wide, and they're providing connectivity from the surface down into the pipe drain.
And regarding reseeding and stuff like that, I mean, the fertiliser, is that just a natural sort of year-by-year sort of course management?
Well, whenever we repair the course after every fixture, the divot mix that we use will have seed in it, and it takes its chance. In summer, it'll grow for its life. But even now, walking along, you occasionally see where it's spritting in the divot mix, and it's in for a bit of a rough ride over the next few months, but it takes its chance.
And fences like the one behind us, how often do they get renewed or replaced or upgraded?
It slightly depends on the course. I mean, the frame is a long-term fixture. You get 20 years out of a frame. The birch, as it dries out, it becomes brittle. And so Carlisle's replacing them every 2 years. Haydock happens to replace them every year. But it's when it's sappy, it's got whip in it, but as it gets older, so it becomes brittle and just breaks.
Yeah. Kirkland, are you fit enough for the walk up to the line? Are we going to make it?
We'll have a breather at
Come on.
halfway.
Over the last then, Kirkland, all the jumping's done, the winning post in sight, and tell you what, it's still deceptively uphill.
It's still on the collar, and it's a long way, isn't it? A lot can happen between the last fence and the winning post here.
And we've looked around the track and we've seen how good it is condition-wise for the time of year. The ground staff do a fantastic job. The unsung heroes.
Yeah, that's exactly what they are. Yeah, I mean, they're out in all weathers. Somebody has calculated, don't know who, there's about 100 hoof prints to a furlong. And you're repairing them with a bucket in one hand, a little coal scoop in the other, putting an amount of soil into each divot. And when weather's really bad, each horse, certainly at Haydock, can count for about a tonne of divot mix, and a man can do about a tonne a day with a coal scoop and a bucket.
And we all know what the weather can be like in Cumbria in the winter.
They've a team of 4 here. They're actually recruiting an apprentice, but they are a very hard-working, solid, committed team here.
280 still to come in December. I mean, so far in the autumn, the ground's been lovely.
I mean, we have got that advantage of tending to get rain here before the rest of the country, and so we capitalise on that and hope to get support from southern trainers.
And today's a typical day for the time of year, but it's sleet in the air, not that warm.
This is what it's going to be. The sunny spells and then rather sharp showers, but it's raw, isn't it?
Kirkland, here's to a good day's racing.
Thank you.
Set in the spectacular Northumberland countryside, Hazel Rig Racing is home to Rose and Tony Dobbin and their select team of both staff and horses. Following a breakthrough campaign 2 seasons ago, including a first grading success courtesy of Johnny's Sofa, last season was one to forget as the yard became ravaged with a debilitating virus. However, with state-of-the-art facilities, the Dobbins are as best placed as any in the country to bounce back. You had a pretty amazing career in the saddle, Rose, point to pointing and under rules, and a fair few winners as well.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, I was just very, very lucky. I had a huge support from my parents. They had a lot of nice horses and I rode them all on the whole. So I had quite a short career, but I was very lucky. I had a great time with it. And
going back to the very beginning, what was your first involvement in racing? I know you were down south, you were looking around a few yards.
I mean, my very first person I rode out for was Peter Monteith when I was up at Edinburgh, who obviously sadly has passed away. But that's where I started off, and then after Edinburgh I went down to Lambourne and I had a spell with Nicky Henderson, and I was going out with Ed James, and I worked for him for a couple of years and also rode out for Charlie Edgerton and Stan Moore, but quite soon I wanted to get going with the riding and all the point-to-pointers. We started getting a few point-to-pointers up here with Rona and Peter Elliott. And then I got going under rules, and that's when we went over to Nicky Richards. Yeah,
and then you had all those winners. It was almost an exact split, wasn't it? About 100 winners, 50 point-to-pointing, 50 under rules?
Yeah, I think just more under rules. I think I had 56 under rules, yeah, and I rode for 100 winners, yeah.
And then your riding career came to an end, and what about starting training? How long were you thinking about that?
I mean, I was riding and training at the same time for a short spell, but not very long. Actually, it was on Roll On. I remember I was riding him at Kelso one day. First day we had runners from here, and I got down to the start, and I hadn't done my homework at all. And I was then that I realised that you can't really do both, I don't think, to the full professional extent. You want to give them both 100%. So I stopped riding then, but I had a great spell at it, and then the training took over, obviously. I'd been thinking about doing it for quite a few years before that.
Does it help you in the role now, the fact that you used to ride?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a different kettle of fish. I mean, I'd say Dobbs and I probably get more of a kick out of training a winner than riding a winner, because so much more goes into it. You know, when you're on a horse, you might love that horse and have a great thrill riding a winner, but when you get off the horse, that's it, job done. Whereas training, there's obviously a lot more goes into it. And yeah, I think the whole of mine anyway, my riding career all fed into this, especially times with the trainers that I rode out for and worked with, from Nicky Henson to even Rona and Peter and the Borders, and especially Nicky Richards at Greystoke. It's just you're always seeing all their methods and how they get their horses fit and how they look after them, and it all feeds into what you're going to do when you set up.
Neil, you and Rose and Tony, your paths met a lot of years ago at Greystoke.
Yeah, I think I've known Tony for 30 years maybe. He was just a young lad at John Joe's, and I went to Gordon's just about the same time. I think I was there about maybe a year long before Tony. Yeah.
And as a jockey yourself, you ride a few winners?
Yeah, I had about, I think, nearly 30. Mainly jumping. I had one on the flat for David Chapman when I first left school, and then I went jumping, and mainly at Gordon's for about, I was 20 odd years, 25 years nearly at Greystoke, I think.
And then a spell in Ireland, was it?
3 years with David Watchman's, yes, before I come here. That was good experience, seeing a different side of it, Group 1 horses, etc. But then Tony rang me about the job, and it was nice to come home. So here I am, yeah.
And we've seen you about the place today, busy. What is your role?
Well, I'm officially head lad or whatever. So I'm here every day, and in charge of most of the things, feeding, etc., medical side of it and all that, keeping the lads going.
Is there any Greystoke's methods employed here?
Yeah, there is actually. We try and school on a Monday, which we used to in Greystoke, and Mondays and Thursdays are sort of quieter days, so we tend to school in them days. And we work on a Wednesday and a Saturday like they do in Greystoke. So there is a little bit, which we try to.
Rose, your name's on the licence, but obviously it's a big partnership between you and your husband Tony. How do the roles work?
Yeah, very much. As you say, my name's on the licence, but we do it together full time, which has its challenges, but we get through those, and I think we make a good team. I'd be the sort of slightly more relaxed one in the yard, and he'd be the one better at keeping the lads in line, I'd say. We would train the horses together. We'd have the similar ideas of what the horses need to be doing day in, day out, and we would do the board together very much, and the work, organising the work and the schooling. I would be more in the office looking for races and doing a bit more admin, and I usually run those ideas past him, and when we're at the races we'd go through how the horses should be ridden together, but he would very much speak to the jockeys and give them their instructions. As obviously he's the much more experienced jockey.
I mean, well, they kind of know how Rose and I like the horses to be ridden, you know, and they're all good riders. I would just leave it to them, you know, and I think they respect that. And if there's something I think they've done something that they shouldn't have done, or vice versa, then I will say it. But I think it works well, you know, and Rose kind of leaves the riding things to me. But like I say, they know how we like our horses to be ridden. It's just to be kept simple, and so it's up to them.
Seen some nice riders this morning, including Conor O'Farrell and Craig Nicholl, two jockeys that you use.
Yep, the two boys come in here most weeks, and well, Craig's got another job now with Straight Line Construction. He's their main rider, so we'll still use him when we can, obviously. But then we've got Conor as a backup, and you know, we've a lad in the yard, Bill Shanahan, who's hoping to get going. He's a good lad, claims 7, works very hard at his weight and his fitness. And we've another young boy called Ben Smolt, who is going to ride his first point-to-point this year. So we've got a great team of young lads and lasses in the yard, and we're very happy to have them. Very, very lucky.
And just a couple of seasons ago, you had your best season, and then of course last season, dare I say, a bit of a write-off.
Last year was a nightmare, but it was learning. It was very much we've learnt a lot from it. You look back on it it's really easy to look back on things with hindsight, but we were slightly chasing our tail from the start. We had a horrible virus at the start. Well, when I say horrible, it was horrible in that it was silent. You couldn't see anything wrong with them. The scopes were good, the bloods were good. They just weren't running right. And then it was just a catalogue of errors after that. The flu epidemic hit and they all had to have a flu jab. And I feel like, looking back at it now, I think their systems were low and their immunity was impaired. And then they all got given the flu jab and it just knocked them for six. And then you could see problems. That's what they then started coughing and having snotty noses. And it was just one thing after another. But our owners were amazing. They were so patient, every other week I'd be sending out emails going, we're doing this now, we're doing that, we're trying this, we're trying that, and sorry, we're going to have another quiet couple of weeks. And they all just took it so well. Everyone was like, well, what can you do? You've just got to take it on the chin. These things happen. But it is very boring to go through for everyone, staff, owners, us. But main thing is we seem to have come back this season in good form. I was really nervous coming into the autumn because you don't know how that's going to carry on, how it's going to affect them this season. We really looked after them. We didn't run them, we didn't work them too hard, but you don't know until you start running them. And so it's just such a relief. It's such a relief that they've come back in such good form.
I don't think we're there yet, but we're thankfully they are running well and they look much better. And for what we've ran now, we haven't had that many runners, and they've been consistent, which is what they weren't being at all. They've been consistent now to begin with for the season. So if that can continue through the year, it'll be great.
They certainly look happy and healthy, what we've seen today anyway.
Yeah, even in that rain, but there we are.
and it's not normally like this here, so you tell me anyway.
Well, yeah, exactly. As I said before, I lived in Carlisle, Cumbria area for 20 years and it never stopped raining. And then I moved over here and there's half the amount of rain that you get from over there, but not today. Looking around here, facilities-wise, it's all very high spec.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, we designed it from, obviously it's an old yard that we've refurbished, but everything was thought out, and we're just incredibly lucky to be in such a beautiful place and in such an amazing yard. It's just great.
We're lucky to have the shed because it does everything. If it's raining like that this morning, we stay in there, we school in there, we break the youngsters in there. Once you get in, once you close them doors, they can't get out. So it's a great facility to have that, it really is. We've got everything we could wish for, really. It's great facilities. I mean, I've been seen all around the world or whatever, and it's as good as anywhere. But you need the horses, and touch wood, we seem to got some nice young ones this time, so hopefully after last year we can turn it around. And I know you want to pay tribute to your parents for obviously the riding career and what we have now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've already said it about the riding, and especially with the training. I couldn't do it without their support. They've always had a lot of horses with us, and it was my father's idea to make the yard here at Hazelrig. And he is a man of very high standards, and you'll have seen what standard that yard is at, and that's down to him. It has to be absolutely A1 with him. And so that's why we've got such a beautiful yard. And then obviously they've carried on supporting us now that we're training, and they've got what my father would say, far too many horses, but it's great for us that we've got so many nice horses for them.
But it's not all about your parents' horses, because you're keen to get it out there that you're not just a private trainer.
Of course not. No, I mean, the ironic thing is, Dad's got a large proportion of the horses here, but I probably look after the outside owners more than him, but because that Mum and Dad are so easy to train for. As long as they're up to date what's going on and where they're running and what's going on with the horses, I see them often. They live 10 minutes away, so I try and make the outside owners feel very welcome and well looked after. And what Dobbs and I realise is it's such an expensive hobby. We try and make it as the most fun it could possibly be, whether that's coming here to have a good breakfast and have fun in the yard, to going to the races and having a good day there, whether however the horse runs. And obviously getting the best out of the horse is the most important thing, but we want to make it a fun experience.
And numbers-wise, horses, you're about bang on 50?
Yeah, about 50, and delighted to be that many. Maybe we'd expand a little bit at some stage, but I think 50 to 60 to 70 quality horses is any trainer's dream.
What about ambitions or dreams of places to go and races to win?
Oh, well, the dream is always to, be running in the big races. The difficult thing is finding the horses good enough. We're lucky, we've got a lot of nice young horses coming through, and you just have to keep hoping that they're going to be good enough to run in those big races and take you to Cheltenham or Aintree. But yeah, that's always the ambition, is to run in the big races, have horses good enough to go to the festival. That's any trainer's dream.
Are you the type of people that set targets?
No, not particularly. I mean, everyone, I think, would like to better their previous season, and we did it a couple of times, and then last year was a complete wipeout. So as long as we beat last season's target, which we're on course to do, obviously, but I think just if you try and keep them horses healthy, which is a very difficult thing to do, which I've realised now, and then they'll do the work for you.
With last season's virus now hopefully firmly behind them, Rose and Tony have high hopes for their string in the current campaign, and recent performances on the track continue to fill them with confidence. None more so than the heartwarming and victorious return to action of Johnny Sofa Air, following nearly 2 years on the sidelines.
He's had a history of a suspensory ligament injury, and it just means we can canter him in the morning and then do a bit more in the afternoon in the pool as well. Just gets a bit more work into them without obviously putting the pressure on the legs and the feet.
And the fact he hasn't run for so long before he made that fantastic comeback, I mean, he's so fragile, this is an absolute godsend.
Yeah, it's great. Like I say, it means you can do plenty of work with him on the gallop, but as well, on top of that, you can get a bit more work into him in here without putting the extra pressure on the old injury. Similarly, we've got Some Rain, who's coming back from having a kissing spine operation, and he's done loads of swimming in here. And you can't get them fit in here, but you can add to the fitness. And importantly, if they're lame, you can keep them ticking over in here. If they're lame with a foot problem or a knee problem or that sort of thing, you can just keep them ticking over in here.
And he seems to love it.
He's a good swimmer. They're not all brilliant swimmers. Some of them you wouldn't persevere with, but he's very good. The other day, they said it was like he was doing a bit of work. He was just swimming around here normally like this, and then suddenly he got a sprint on, and it was like he was doing a bit of work in here.
So
whereas other ones get lazy, and you'll see the marks on the centre. That's from us slapping the side, going, "Come on." You have to click them up a bit because they realise they can float after a while.
Yeah. And using Johnny Sofa as an example, how often would he come for a swim?
We'd probably swim him 3 times a week in the afternoons, and then other horses, obviously, if they're lame, they'd swim every day. It just depends. Individual, they're all individual.
And on the subject of Johnny Sofa, we're looking at him now. Fantastic comeback, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. It was a complete dream. It was very emotional. It was a long road back to recovery, and he did it in some style.
Have we set a date and a race for the next one?
The idea is we're going to try and get him qualified for the Grand National, and he needs to be placed over 3 miles. So we'll have a go at the rehearsal, and if he's not placed there, get him placed somewhere else over 3 miles.
And just finally on Johnny Sofa, he's clearly a horse you have a lot of affection for.
Oh, he's a star. I mean, it's a shame he's been fragile, but in between the injuries, he's done so well for us. And he's just such a gutsy horse and tough, and he's a really fun horse to be able to have.
Johnny Sofa's owner had a dream a few years ago of running Johnny Sofa in the 2020 Grand National, so there's half a chance that might happen, because he's gone up in the handicap a bit now and then.
The dream's still alive.
The dream's still alive, but we'll see. He's a very brittle horse, is Johnny, so we've got to look after him.
That's all for now, folks. Thanks to everyone who took part. Join us again next week for another edition of This Racing Life.